let me do it. Hello, thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to Empowered. I am your host, Angela T. Moore. Remember, every week on Empowered, I interview medical and mental health professionals, experts in wellness and prevention, medical and mental health professionals, again, um, as well as educators, motivators to help you live an empowered life. Every week, I will provide you with tips for health and wellness, as well as information about important medical and mental health topics. I will also highlight a nonprofit or charity in your community, as well as discuss topics that I want you to think about. So if you are a medical or mental health professional, if you are an expert in wellness and prevention, if you're an activist or advocate, if you are an educator or a motivator, and you want to help others live an empowered life, please contact me because I would love to interview you and I would love to share the information that you would like to share with my listeners. Today, I will be talking with Lisa Tolbert. She's Director of Engagement and Inclusion at Barton Malow. Patrice Conrad, Senior Provider Program Specialist for Priority Health. James L. Young, he is the National Heart Failure Ambassador for the American Heart Association, as well as Mark Nicholson, owner of the Gazette Media Group. We will be discussing the importance of promoting team member wellness within an organization, as well as healthy habits to help prevent the risk of type 2 diabetes and simple ways to implement gradual changes towards a healthier lifestyle. We will also be discussing heart health in recognition of American Heart Health Month, as well as resources to help you remodel or renovate your home. My first guest, Lisa Tolbert, serves as the Director of Engagement and Inclusion at Barton Malow, a company that is committed to transforming the construction industry through innovation and increased efficiencies in the building process. In this role, she is responsible for the development at Barton Malow's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Lisa implements programs like the Workplace Chaplain Program, excellent, meditation program, excellent, wellness days, excellent, and caregiver leave to support team member well-being at Barton Malow. Welcome to Empowered, Lisa. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Pleasure to be here.
Now, I understand that Barton Malow is recognized as one of the best and brightest companies to work for in the nation by the National Association of Business Resources.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the significance of this honor and what makes Barton Malow such a great place to work?
Yeah, absolutely. So we truly are honored for the distinction. We've participated, Barton Malow has participated in that particular awards for a number of years. In fact, for 17 consecutive years, we've been named one of the 101 best places to work in Metro Detroit. This year, as you said, we received the tremendous honor of being named one of the 101 or the nation's best and brightest company to work for. And just to provide some context, so part of that process of identifying winning companies is to get feedback from team members about their experiences, about the programs and initiatives are in place to support team members. And then also from an HR perspective, we provide insight on some of those programs and initiatives as well. So what's really important for us is that, Barton Malow team members contributed to Barton Malow receiving that distinction. So that means a lot. So yes, it's great to have another award to put on the shelf, to put on the website. But what's even more meaningful is that it represents a positive experience that team members are having. And just a couple of things that were highlighted as part of our submission and the feedback from team members is Barton Malow's this culture of care that we have at Barton Malow. In preceding the pandemic, but certainly through the pandemic, continuing that care for team members and that culture of just really just caring deeply about team members. So really appreciate the distinction.
Most definitely. It's nice to be recognized for something that you are purposeful about. And
Mhm.
it sounds like this company, this organization has decided to be purposeful in caring about its employees and the people that it impacts. And I'm glad that Barton Malow was recognized for that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. So just about everybody has experienced life in a different way these past couple years. And gosh, it's hard to believe we're like going into the third year, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And when people are dealing with crises or difficult times in their personal life, it can be really hard to focus on life and focus on work like you normally would. How does Barton Malow support its people when they are going through tough times?
Yeah, I think what positioned us as an organization to respond to the pandemic is many of the things that we're doing now, we were doing before. So it provided the opportunity to elevate, to continue, and not just start anew, when the pandemic happened. So certainly there are opportunities to tweak things, to do things different, to evaluate things, but that intentional focus on team member well-being and caring about team members, really proud to say, that is, we had that focus before, and again continued that. So some of the things that so for instance, when we talk about well-being and wellness at Barton Malow, certainly there's the physical aspect of wellness and the emotional aspect of wellness and well-being, and we also look at it holistically from like a financial wellness. We're going to be talking next week with our team members during Team Member Appreciation Week about digital wellness. So for instance, some of the programs that we've had in place for a few years is, you mentioned in your introductions, our chaplain program, what we call Care Partners at Barton Malow. So we are partnered with a company called Marketplace Chaplains, and for several years now, we've had chaplains who would visit our offices and our job sites and just be a resource, an ear, just for those team members who were interested. So it was not intended to be a religion at work program. Team members had a choice whether or not they wanted to engage in conversations or leverage the resource. But for those who chose to, it was helpful for team members who might be experiencing personal challenges or difficulties with spouse or children, ailing parents or family members, or team members who might have challenges at work. And again, just to have an independent ear to speak to. So, we're very proud of that program. And certainly we've had to pivot during COVID with that program and not being able to have those in-person visits, but certainly we've had care partners who've maintained relationships with team members, and we look forward to doing that. And just one program that really is near and dear to my heart that I always talk about is our emergency financial support program. So again, that program was in place for several years before the pandemic. It still exists today, and it's a benevolent program, and it provides financial support for team members who experience unexpected hardships, financial hardships. And we execute that so that in a way that team members can maintain dignity in asking for help. So, the person who's submitting the request, like the team that reviews it, they don't know who's responding, who's making that request. So there's a person in between that facilitates that. And then when COVID happened, we partnered with our foundation to add another element to the financial support for COVID relief. So team members who are experiencing financial hardship specifically related to COVID, so that continues. And then a host of things. And certainly we've done things through COVID, before COVID, like the yoga, the meditation sessions. We focus on like mental health awareness months, and have speakers to come in to talk about like demystifying and taking the stigma out of mental health. and making it okay to talk about it at work and provide platforms for that. So those are just some of the things. And again, it's more a holistic approach when we look at opportunities to support well-being of team members.
Hmm. Well, I'm going to support a holistic approach. I'm going to support, supporting the well-being of employees, because that's, truly what I'm, all about. But most of my research has made it very clear that the key to a successful company is to put people first,
Yep.
inside and outside the organization. And what are some of the advantages of putting people first?
Yeah. So when we like our part of our core purpose is that about building people, projects, and communities. And we when we like when our branding team, they like visuals that we have created around that. It's people is first, and then projects, and then communities. And not only is people first in order, but people is first in the font size. It's the biggest, largest word, and that's very intentional for Barton Malow. So, like for us, again, like caring deeply for people in everything that we do at Barton Malow. So certainly there are times when team members have to be held accountable for behaviors and performance, and certainly even through that and in every experience that we team members have, we really want team members to walk away feeling that Barton Malow cared for me as an individual. One of the things that we're working on is just acknowledging and calling to attention like key moments in team members experience at Barton Malow. And like for me, like I've been with Barton Malow 24 years, and when I look back and reflect on my time at Barton Malow, like what were those important moments to me? Certainly some of those moments were tied to things specific to my role, but when I recently reflected, those key moments were really key moments in my personal life. And what I recalled about it is how Barton Malow treated me, how with the support I got for those key moments. When my kids were born, when my dad passed away, right. So they're like those are the moments that really, really are important to me that I reflect on. And again, what I connect that to is the support that I got from Barton Malow, how my manager treated me, was I provided the flexibility to do what I needed to do to take care of my family. So those are the types of experiences that we want all team members and really expect all team members to be able to enjoy at Barton Malow.
What you speak of reminds me of the fact, and it's funny because it's a fact that should apply in any organization, is that the people that make up your company are people.
Yep.
And they're going to have experiences, they're going to have challenges and obstacles, they're going to have major life transitions and major life events, and it benefits an organization to support their employees when they are going through those different experiences in their lives.
Yeah.
Because you are going to inevitably bring those experiences to work, and the more that you can support someone through those difficult times and even through some of the great experiences that they're having, you can celebrate with them. It allows the organization to grow while the person is growing as well.
Absolutely. And I'm sure many of us have heard of the saying, like the bring your whole self to work concept. And we've said it and we acknowledge that as well. And for me, like that really, it resonated with me thinking of it in a way, like when we pull into the parking lot or, back in the day when many of us pulled into a parking lot. But like when we walk through the door of the workplace or we turn on our computers at home to work, like we don't turn off our personal lives. Right.
Yeah.
Like I don't leave my baggage in the car.
Right.
I don't leave what happened that morning or that night before, good or bad. Right. I bring it with me. So to, really understanding the concept of bring your whole self to work is recognizing that that's what bring your whole self to work means. And then so having resources available to meet team members where they are to support wherever they might be in that journey of life or experience. So, certainly we have a lot of things that we offer. And one of the things that we try to manage is not like overwhelming team members with the offerings and the resources. So they're available, provide nudges and reminders at times, but again, just having as much as possible, and we'll not have everything for everyone, but just, having those resources available to meet people where they are when they do truly bring their whole selves to work.
Okay, okay. Well, we actually have a break coming up, and when we get back, I want to talk about how the pandemic has impacted the hiring of employees, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. So, Lisa, prior to the break, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about the pandemic and as it relates to hiring because the uh, the pandemic has impacted so many of us, as well as companies in many aspects,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I know truly in terms of economy, when it comes to finding good workers, that it can be a challenge, and especially now with so one of the things that I recognized as I've talked with many different owners of companies as well as employees is that people changed during the pandemic. They learned about themselves, and I think companies had to change as they had to adapt and evolve uh, to adjust to the many challenges of the pandemic. I know that hiring employees and finding good employees is a definite challenge for many companies. Has that been a challenge for Barton Malow? And if so, how are you guys dealing with that?
Yeah, yeah. So certainly, we're not immune to the hiring challenge. Um, Barton Mallow, like, we are in this period of growth, and we are hiring. So, for instance, in our recent onboarding program, we invited 66 new hires who had been hired over the last 3 months or so to be a part of our virtual onboarding program. So we are actively hiring. So we have a great team of human resources business partners spread across our organization in different states and different areas of the business. And that is a hot topic, and it's a high priority for those individual team members. So certainly looking at where we recruit, how we recruit, and really looking for opportunities to really shine a spotlight on what sets Barton Mallow apart. Like, why is the grass greener at Barton
Mhm.
Mallow? Like, what's our value, our proposition
I
for
like
those team
that. Why is the
members?
grass greener at Barton Malow?
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that.
'cause we do feel that it's greener here. We honestly do feel that the grass is greener on this side. So it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. So and part of that is diversity. There's a diversity component in that, and like using it as an opportunity to like put that lens on recruiting and evaluate and assess, like, are there opportunities to expand where we're recruiting, not only for our professional hires, but for our college hires as well. So some of the feedback from our business partners during the college recruiting season last fall is that it's no different there. Like, it's equally as challenging because people have more choices now. So again, just putting our best foot forward, and in distinctions like this, and being named the national best and brightest, like, it's a great opportunity to really spotlight Barton Mallow as a truly a great place to work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, one thing that we just talked about is the importance of hiring uh, diverse employees, and I imagine that Barton Malow has been successful as it has been as an organization because of the diversity that it's maintained over the years. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, certainly. So, diversity has been part of Barton Mallow's embedded in Barton Mallow's strategic objectives over the last few years in different ways. So, whether it's direct in terms of, being intentional about where we recruit and how we hire, as well as looking at our hiring process and ensuring that it's structured, it's consistent, that it's fair, and certainly diversity in terms of like a traditional diversity
Mm-hmm.
is important, and we also recognize diversity in terms of experiences and education background, and there's again, like there has been and continues to be that intentional focus on diversity, the traditional diversity, as well as an expanded perspective as it relates to diversity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to go back to talk about your employees and why Barton Malow was recognized as such a wonderful place to be, a wonderful place to work. I think a wonderful place to grow and thrive. Quite honestly, it sounds like.
Mhm.
Have you got any feedback from employees on what they appreciate the most about the organization, about the benefits of working there?
Yeah, and so we are an organization that continuously listens to our team members and look for ways to collect feedback on specific experiences, or just from time to time to collect feedback from team members. So feedback certainly from the feedback that was shared by team members as part of this award, but also on a regular basis we collect feedback. So even when team members leave the organization, in terms of exits, and so one of the consistent things that we hear from our team members is what makes Barton Mallow a great place to work is really the people that work
Mm-hmm.
here. And in that feedback, again, whether it's someone is leaving the organization, someone's been here for 6 months, or collecting in our quarterly feedback surveys, that's the one consistent thing. It's the people that really, truly, and it sounds a bit cliche, but it's the people that make the experience what it is for a lot of team members. And in Barton Mallow, we strive to be, and we are like really heavily based on relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and having authentic relationships with team members, having strong relationships with our clients and subcontractors, external partners, but certainly team members. And part of that, and having those connections, is about communication,
Mm-hmm.
transparency, building trust, having resources and support for our managers and leaders, so that those connections can happen. And then team members are able to build those relationships. So certainly there's other things that make the list, probably in our top three, top five, what we hear from team members, but certainly it's the people, it's the relationships here at Barton Mello.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's interesting that you talk about that because one of the things that I had made a note of is that I felt like, based on my research, is that it seems like you guys have done a really good job of maintaining communication as well as a connection with the employees. And not only do you have to be connected to your employees, but you're not going to be able to have open communication if you're not connected with them because there's a trust that takes place when you have connection, and only through authentic connection can you really have, I think, authentic communication that's not guarded, that is truthful and honest.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great things too, that um, a byproduct of the pandemic is just in terms of how communication happens at Barton Malow. So our CEO and COO, prior to the pandemic, and certainly during the pandemic, but not as much, regularly visited job sites and within Michigan, outside of Michigan, just to stay connected. Another thing that had to pivot was like how to continue that communication, that level of communication, those connections. So we have a really great, really fantastic communications team, and they developed just other avenues to continue. Sorry, the lights just went out in the building.
I just saw that.
Sorry about that. I know I need to move around a bit. Yeah, make the lights come back on, but it's all good over here.
It's so good. We had the conversation, prior to, about it. Things don't have to be perfect,
That's right. Life. That's right. Yeah, it's all good. It's a little dark, but it's all good here.
Now, the last time I had you on the show, we talked about diversity and some of the things that you were doing to kind of promote inclusion in the construction industry. How have those efforts been going?
Yeah, no, great. Yeah, the last time we talked, it was around Construction Inclusion Week.
Yes, it was.
October, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Barton Malow was really proud to participate in that National Construction Inclusion Week to spotlight the importance of having inclusion in this industry. So, definitely we poured a lot into that week, and and looked for opportunities to highlight from different viewpoints, whether it's inclusion in the workplace, inclusion with our subcontractors, so just did a variety of things, and those efforts are ongoing. We have dedicated team members on board at Barton Malow who that's their area of focus. So whether, again, it's diversity in our workforce, diversity with our suppliers in the business side, workforce development, we have a team that collaborates and meets on a regular basis, and just working through our strategic plan. So those are ongoing efforts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We have like one more minute in this segment. I want to give you the opportunity to just to share anything else that you wanted to share that perhaps we didn't talk about today.
I just want to say again, Angela, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about and share some of our best practices. Like one of the things that I always appreciate about our CEO, President Ryan Maybach, is that, he meets with our new hires at our onboarding each session. Like, he's frank, like, we're not a perfect organization. Show me an organization that is. But what we are is an organization that is continuously looking for ways to improve how we do things, the experience that team members have. I'm really proud to be a part of an organization like this. Again, I've been here for 24 years, and oftentimes when people ask me like what's kept me here, truly what has kept me here really it's the people, it's the opportunity, to be empowered, to have like this entrepreneurial spirit, and again, it's what we want for all team members to have.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it with me. I look forward to talking with you again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Angela.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to take a break and we'll be back.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Thanks. Hi, Angela.
Hi. Okay, you guys, I'm going to introduce my next guest. And I love Miss Patrice. We've had the wonderful opportunity to talk now on several occasions. Let me tell you about my next guest. My next guest, Patrice Conrad, is the Senior Provider Program Specialist for Diabetes at Priority Health. She's a nurse. She's been a nurse for 40 years. Congratulations. Patrice is also a diabetes educator who has taught classes, directed patient care, and conducted research in diabetes trends and treatment. She has previously served as the care manager at Priority Health and is dedicated to ensuring those in her care are living with their healthiest, excuse me, are living their healthiest and happiest lives. I love that. Welcome to Empowered, Patrice. It's a pleasure to have you back on the show today.
Thank you. It's always fun to be here.
Now, Priority Health was recently, recently announced that it launched a new pilot diabetes prevention program for eligible Medicaid members through a grant, I understand, through the National Kidney Foundation of Michigan. What can you tell us about this program?
So the National Diabetes Prevention Program it started in 2010. The CDC decided to see what would happen if we got people before they got diabetes and got them healthier. And it involves a coach, a participant, and then a group. You're matched with a group of sort of like participants. Right now, Michigan Medicaid does not cover, most Michigan Medicaids do not cover DPP. And so the National Kidney Foundation won a grant, and they allowed us to enroll multiple of our members to join and take the opportunity to get healthier, worst case scenario, and prevent or at least delay the onset of diabetes, best case.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, as you know, I am a big advocate of prevention, as well as intentional management. And I say intentional management of an illness if you are diagnosed. And notice I said intentional management because I do think once you are diagnosed with something, you do have to be intentional about how you're going to manage that illness, that disease that you've been diagnosed with. And so, what I want to ask you about are what are some of the lifestyle habits that listeners can implement into their daily lives to help prevent or manage diabetes?
Well, the DPP actually covers multiple different areas. When we think about diabetes, we always think about eating, meal planning. A lot of people think, oh, you can never have sweets again. You have diabetes because you ate too many sweets, and now that you have diabetes, you can never eat sweets again, and neither of those are true. Most people who have diabetes have type 2 diabetes, and that's genetic. Certainly, lifestyle can bring that on sooner, but it's not going to change your genes. So, obviously, we want to talk about eating, but it's really, really important when we talk about any lifestyle change. Two things. Number one, don't try to change the world overnight. I'm gonna go from 4,000 calories a day to 1,000. I'm gonna exercise, 3 hours a day when I haven't exercised in 3 years, and that kind of stuff. So the other thing is, it's super important that you make it lifestyle changes you can live with, because the reality is you're going to have to live with diabetes or even pre-diabetes for the rest of your life. So if you make it so restrictive you can't live with it, what often happens is people will make it something that, okay, I'm never gonna, like me, I'm a Reese's peanut butter fan. I'm never gonna eat another peanut butter cup ever again. And so what am I thinking about? A, I'm thinking about peanut butter cups all the time that I can't eat, right?
Right.
And B, at some point I'm probably gonna have one. And then what happens? Well, I've already had a peanut butter cup. I've screwed it. I might as well just throw the whole program because I've made it something I can't live with. So make it your eating plan, meal plan. I don't call it a diet. Most of us, when we think of diet, we think of deprivation, right? I can't have fill in the blanks, or I have to have fill in the blanks. I just call it a meal plan. We want it to be as healthy as possible with some flexibility and room for some fun in there too. Of course, exercise is very important. A lot of people think exercise is walking. Is it? Sure. Is it the only way to exercise? Absolutely not. There's lots, anything that's moving is good. I did have a patient one time years ago say, well, I like to crochet. That's exercise, right? Well, it is good for you. And I love to crochet too, but wouldn't call it actually exercise. But please continue crocheting, but maybe throw some steps in place or something like that.
Yeah.
Stress is a huge factor in diabetes control, actually in life control. The more stress you have and the less, we all have stress. Everybody says, oh, I got stress. Of course you do. You got stress, right, Angela? I got stress. We all got stress. It's not a matter of getting rid of it. It's a matter of managing it and getting it to a manageable level that you can deal with, whatever that takes. For a lot of us, it takes maybe getting some help from a friend, from a counselor, from your family doctor, whatever it takes to do that is what you need to do. And then we also want to talk about medications. A lot of times for prediabetes, people will start on metformin. It's cheap, it's effective, may not be for everybody, but and then of course diabetes, there's a whole long string of medications we don't have time to get into, but and then pitfalls. Another thing that they talk about in these classes is pitfalls. We got holidays coming up. Right now, we don't really have any coming up, but we just got done with the holidays. Maybe we have grandkids' birthday parties. Family members. COVID's finally starting to recede a little bit. Maybe we want to go do something. So how do we handle those without, really blowing things and then feeling bad and setting ourselves back?
Now, what else is Priority Health doing to help those with prediabetes or diabetes?
Well, like we said, prediabetes classes are awesome. They're actually a year long. And the last time I said that to you, I think it was you that you kind of went, a year? Actually, you need a year. Anytime we're going to make a lifestyle change, you can't go in for one day. We go see the doctor. The doctor says you need a healthier exercise. Okay, I'm done. It doesn't work like that.
No, I love that it's a year, because I think, unfortunately, a lot of times any programs or classes that someone takes are too short, for a true lifestyle change to take place.
And that was actually one of the things the CDC found was to sustain a lifestyle change, must be somebody else I was talking to sustain a lifestyle change takes a long time. Typically, the first 16 weeks or about 4 months or once a week that you meet with your coach and your co-participants. If you are in the DPP through the Medicaid, it is what we call distance learning. So instead of showing up at a place, because we all know COVID, we can't get together and stuff right now, they're actually doing meetings, like say, for example, at a certain time in a certain place, and everybody calls in or does Zoom or whatever. We also have for our commercial and our individual program members, we do have a virtual program that's an app. And they send you a scale that hooks to satellite and sends, I think, Bluetooth. I don't know. I always get that wrong. I just call it magic. It gets back to the company. It's magic, because whatever I think, it's always wrong. So, and that sends it back. And it also has a virtual or a real person coach available that you can log into, and lessons and everything else. And there's always lessons. Every week there's lessons for the first 16 weeks. With our virtual program, there's actually lessons for all 52 weeks. For the distance learning classes through Zoom or whatever, they have lessons once a week for the first 16 weeks, and then once or twice a month for the remainder of the year. The goal of the program is in the first 16 weeks to really get you what you need, and then those last 8 months to keep you moving, keep you going, because it is so easy to backslide. And if you don't have that support and encouragement, it's hard sometimes to jump back on that horse.
Most definitely. I don't think that individuals that have not had a diagnosis like diabetes or prediabetes, they may not be completely aware of how difficult that can be for someone, especially if their life was drastically different than the diagnosis. And now the doctor is telling you it's a matter of life or death. It's a matter of, you protecting your eyes and your limbs, that you get this under control. And it's interesting because, one of the greatest challenges of making lifestyle changes is sometimes the stress and the anxiety that goes with making those changes. And to get a diagnosis like that, it kind of forces you very quickly into making lifestyle changes that you mentally may not necessarily be prepared for. Because on one hand, you're kind of processing your diagnosis. On the other hand, you may be very motivated to make changes, but not necessarily have the tools and the resources and the education and the information to make those changes. So it could be extremely challenging.
And the support. One of the things that I have always said, and I've been a diabetes educator for almost 32 years now, and one of the things I've always said is I've never had a patient or a member in all my years, and I've probably seen thousands, who said to me, Patrice, I don't take care of my diabetes. I don't eat healthy. I don't exercise because I am really hoping that I have a heart attack or a stroke. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's reasons people do what they do, and they're not because they want bad things to happen. There's a lot of reasons. There's probably as many reasons as there is people why we do things that may not be totally for our health. And the number of times we do them and how frequently we do them may often depend on a lot of different factors, how much stress we've had, how much, like you said, how much we've learned, how much we've been through. And so without that support of a trained coach, and maybe other people in your class or whatever, it's too easy to fall back on those habits that are there for a reason.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one of the things that we definitely have to acknowledge is that what has led you oftentimes down that road has been something that you may or may not fully understand, quite honestly, because like you said, no one wakes up and says, I want to get diabetes, I want to have cancer.
Right.
You don't, typically do that. Sometimes it's just something that you just kind of, it's like almost like a routine, it's just something that you started when you were younger, or a certain way of eating, a certain way of inactivity, just a certain way of living life that unfortunately has led you down this unhealthy road. And if not for education and support, you're not going to be able to successfully make those changes. Now, we have a break coming up. We're going to take a break. When we get back, I want to talk about who is eligible to receive the no-cost diabetes management benefits. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right. So, Patrice, prior to the break, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about, well, ask you that question really, as who actually is eligible to receive Priority Health's no-cost diabetes management benefits.
Well, thanks to this grant, actually, no matter which line of business that you're in with Priority Health, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, individual, or commercial, now we have that opportunity for all of our members. However, you do have to qualify because these programs are governed by the CDC. These are actually CDC certified programs, Center for Disease Control. There are a certain amount of regulations that are on there. So obviously we're looking for someone diagnosed with prediabetes. And that may mean your A1C. I think most people are familiar with an A1C. It's a blood test of how your blood sugars have been doing over the last 2 to 3 months. 5.7 to 6.4. Those would be the ranges for people who have prediabetes.
And that's 5.7 to 6.4.
Yep, okay. That's the prediabetes range. 6.5 and above is diabetes. 5.6 and below is no diabetes. Okay. So, or maybe you just have some risk factors and you're over age 45 and or you could have a fasting blood sugar of 100 to 125. Or you could just be at risk, which means, you're over 45, maybe your BMI is above 25, which is unfortunately pretty easy to get to. And you have some risk factors. So maybe you have diabetes in your family. or you had a baby if you're a woman over 9 pounds, or you had gestational diabetes during your pregnancy, or
Patrice, go back, because that's something
yeah,
I've never heard before about. If you have a baby so you have a big baby, it can it
it
can
could mean that you had gestational diabetes that they didn't catch. Now, certainly not every woman who has a baby over 9 pounds
Mhm.
has gestational diabetes that was undiagnosed, but we know that women who have diabetes during pregnancy or before pregnancy that become pregnant have bigger babies. And the reason is that sugar's floating around in your blood, right? You can't perfectly control your blood sugars all the time. Your
Right.
pancreas may not be able to keep up, but the babies can in utero. So that baby's just cranking out all this insulin, absorbing all that sugar, getting nice and big, getting nice and chubby. And so we often see women who have big babies go on to develop diabetes later on in life. And very often women with diabetes, or even what we call gestational diabetes, or diabetes that's only effective there during pregnancy. The pregnancy hormones can cause what we call insulin resistance, where you have a hard time, your body has a hard time using the insulin.
Mhm.
And the hormones make that worse, and so you end up with blood sugars in the diabetes range. Once the baby's born, the hormones go back to normal, the blood sugars go back to normal. I've had women say, well, I had gestational diabetes, but the baby was born and the gestational diabetes didn't go away. No, you didn't have gestational diabetes. You probably had undiagnosed type 2.
Oh, okay. That's really,
Gestational diabetes, by definition, goes away when the pregnancy is completed.
okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you for actually explaining that in such a detailed fashion, because I don't know that I had an understanding of that, quite honestly. Thank you. Thank you so much for clarifying. That's why I love doing the show.
Right?
Definitely, definitely. So now, what do members have access to under the diabetes management benefits?
So diabetes or prediabetes. All prediabetes programs are at no cost to the member.
Mhm.
For members who may already have diabetes, it
Yeah.
really depends on which particular product you have, but whether it's Medicare or Medicaid, or but all the products pay for education, because when the rubber hits the road, it's really, really the person who has diabetes that's in the driver's seat.
Right.
Your doctor can help you, your family can help you, and sometimes your family can't help you. Um, but really, we're the ones who have control over what we eat, over whether or not we choose to exercise, over how much we choose to exercise, over how we handle our stress. We may not have control over the stress all the time, but we certainly have some control over how we handle it, what we do with it. And then also you want to look at too, one of the contributing factors can be if you have perhaps a history of anxiety or depression, that can also make your blood sugars worse, and can make blood sugars higher, can make your depression or anxiety worse. And very many people who have depression will tell me, I can't get out and exercise. I can't make myself a healthy meal. I can't, it can be so overwhelming that it's hard to really motivate yourself. The tricky part is, if you can motivate yourself to eat healthier and exercise, bring those blood sugars down, you'll start to feel better, somewhat from the depression as well. But education is critical. I know I'm a diabetes educator, so I know that I'm always going to push that. But the truth is, education and support are two of the biggest things that we need. And honestly, sometimes even more the support than anything else. Of just,
Mhm.
it's okay that you had a piece of cake at your grandkid's birthday yesterday. It's okay that it was raining out all day and I didn't get out and exercise. Tomorrow's a new day. So many of us, one of my favorite quotes is, um, don't let perfection get in the way of doing well. Because
Mhm.
if you put that pressure on yourself to be perfect, you're not going to be. Nobody is anytime. And so you're going to feel like a failure. I can't tell you how many people used to come and see me. Oh, Patrice, I'm such a bad, they'd say bad diabetic. First of all, you're not a diabetic. You're a person with diabetes. And second of all, that isn't a value judgment. It's just a sugar. What can we do to help you feel better and be healthier?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, what you talk about is something that I know, quite honestly, is really key to making any significant changes in your life. Is that you have to have education, but most importantly, you have to have support to make those changes. Because if you feel like you're trying to make some drastic changes in your life and you do not feel like people One, if you don't feel like you have the knowledge to make those changes, but definitely if you don't feel like those people around you are supporting you in those changes, it makes it extremely difficult to be successful.
And a lot of folks, I can't tell you how many people would say, oh, my mom had diabetes. I know all about it. Okay. How long's your mom been gone? 25 years. Okay. We've learned a lot in the last 25 years. We probably did tell your mom you should never have sweets. You should, you should never do this. You should never do that. So it's important to stay up on things. Is it okay to have a piece of cake once in a while? Sure. One of the educators I know used to bring a candy bar for each member of her class when she started teaching, just to say it's okay. Should you have one every day, multiple times a day? Probably not. Probably not. But it's okay to have something once in a while because we don't, nothing tastes better than forbidden fruit, right? So we want to make sure that we don't set ourselves up for failure. We want to set ourselves up for success. And my strongest recommendation is pick a change that sounds easy.
That's interesting. Explain.
So, maybe.
And I will say we have 1 minute.
What? In 1 minute?
Yes.
Okay. So I need to eat healthier. I need to exercise. I need to control my stress better. What sounds easiest to me? For me personally, getting out and exercising. That sounds easiest to me. So I'm going to start walking down I have a dead end street. I'm going to start walking down that first because I want success. Success breeds success. So pick the easiest thing first. Maybe for some people, I'm going to start cooking dinner once a week instead of eating box foods. Whatever sounds easy is what you want to start with because nothing feels better than being successful. And when we set ourselves up for failure, the whole program goes.
Most definitely. And it's amazing how many times we will set ourselves up for failure before we even get started.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to thank you so much, Patrice, for taking time out of your day to join me once again. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, and hopefully we'll get to chat again soon.
Most definitely.
Take care.
Right, take care. We're going to take a break and we'll be back. Welcome back. So I'm going to introduce my next guest, and I hope that you enjoyed my wonderful conversation with Patrice Conrad of Priority Health. My next guest, James L. Young II, is a National Heart Failure Ambassador with the American Heart Association, who is a survivor of congestive heart failure, who ignored classic heart failure symptoms, but once faced with a frightening prognosis, made major changes to turn his health around. In 2016, James was designated an American Heart Association Heart Failure Ambassador, making him the first African American man to receive such a distinction. Welcome back to Empowered, James. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Likewise, Angela. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Now, when we were when you were actually on the show last February.
Yes.
Yes. You and I talked about a very important article, and I wanted to kind of bring up that discussion again because I thought it was so important because through that article, we were able to talk about a number of things. And I want to remind you, the article was What It's Like to Live with Heart Failure from WebMD.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you talked about how in a lot of heart failure stories, people talk about eating bad, smoking, and not working out, but seldom do they get to the underlying reason and
Right.
why they do that to themselves. So what is your heart failure story?
Well, in essence, and first of all, thank you for having me back on your show. I certainly appreciate it. Actually, roughly 11 years ago, I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, systolic heart failure, and cardiomyopathy. And a lot of those conditions or diagnoses that I received was due to my lifestyle. in terms of, and just to be honest and transparent, I was doing a lot of heavy drinking, heavy smoking during that time, and eating a lot of fast foods and no greens foods or any fruits or any water for the most part. I was just totally, I guess, as they say, living life, I guess, in a sense. And eventually, as you know, your body can only sustain so much of that abuse until the body gives up, and that was happened to me like in 2011. I was diagnosed with those heart failure conditions, and I'm certainly um, glad and lucky to be alive today in terms of overcoming those conditions. And as well as my primary care doctor, she's totally happy with my progress over the years, and that was due to mainly me making a conscious decision because I had no choice in the matter. When you reach rock bottom, there's only one way to go but up, right? And so I made a decision that I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. And there's a lot of things I want to do with my life. There's a lot of things I want to accomplish with my life. And so I made a decision to do some extreme things, if you will. And that is, change my diet, incorporated more green leafy vegetables, fruits, and water in my diet, eliminated the alcohol, eliminated the cigarettes. Cigarettes were tough, but over time I was able to remedy or alleviate that out of my life. And then I got into physical activity, which is very crucial in terms of your cardiovascular health. And so I got into walking, just general walking, and then eventually that turned into me jogging. And as eventually I ended up doing some 3 half marathons, Detroit Free Press marathons, and I tell people that I wasn't trying to be an avid runner or wasn't trying to turn into that person, but it was just, I wanted to challenge myself health-wise and physically just to see if I was able to accomplish such a feat, and I was able to do that. And that indicated to me that I was on the right path in that regard.
Yeah. Making a decision to commit to a race or like a marathon, or I've had individuals decide that they want to maybe like compete like in a bodybuilding, show or something like that. I think that's if that motivates you and helps you, start your journey and also too, if it helps you continue the journey long term, because oftentimes the work that you have to do to accomplish that goal takes time, and during
Right.
that time that you dedicate to prepare
Yes.
for the marathon and to prepare for the competition, those necessary changes that need to take place are often implemented, and you find a way of doing it that works for you. So I'm not surprised that you may not be running marathons now, and maybe you are planning to do them. But I think that that's a great way to get started, most
Oh,
definitely.
absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I've gotten more so into cycling now. So,
Okay.
after doing my 3rd marathon, and as you know, like when you deal with recovery from a
Right.
marathon,
Yeah.
I said, well, I'm kind of done with this, in that sense. I think I've accomplished what I wanted to. And so I got into cycling. So I've been doing cycling, since then. And that's been my go-to physical activity for the most part.
Yeah, and it has to be something that you enjoy, and what you enjoy can change,
Right.
quite honestly. And that's the thing. You don't have to, just because you started with running a marathon doesn't mean you have to continue that,
Right.
quite honestly. So there's many ways to be physically active. Now, one of the things though that I want to ask you about is something that I don't think many people think about is what led you to that point where you got those diagnoses. So what were the underlying reasons that you identified that led you to eating bad, smoking, and not working out, that ultimately led to your heart failure?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What I tell people, and I'm totally transparent about this, is the fact that I was involved with a men's organization, and in that organization, there was what I term as a hyper masculinity in terms of activities and lifestyle. So that dealt with heavy drinking, heavy smoking, heavy bad eating constantly. because we were constantly having meetings and constantly having events. And a lot of those things contained a lot of unhealthy things, right? And then after a while, everyone's different in terms of how it impacts them. But in my case, eventually my body just gave in to what I was doing. I started having a lot of heavy breathing, excessive weight gain, excessive coughing, things of that nature. And once I started having those symptoms, that's what made me want to, get to a doctor. Because here's a key point, and I've read articles on this, and they say that men typically don't go to the doctor, right? We typically evade the doctor. And that was my case. I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't see about myself at all. I was doing what was called self-diagnosis, right? I was self-diagnosing myself, right? And watching YouTube videos or whatever, and that wasn't boding well for me, right? And then eventually it took my family to kind of pull me to the side and say, you need to really go to a actual doctor instead of watching these people on YouTube. And actually see about yourself. I was doing all the so-called natural things, the holistic or what have you, and none of those things were working for me. I was far beyond that, so I ended up going and finding a primary care doctor, and that's what set me on the path. And when she did the EKG on me and checked my blood pressure, because my blood pressure was skyrocketed, it was out there. And as you know, like particularly with African Americans, we tend to have some of the highest levels of high blood pressure in not only the nation but the world, right? And so, and it's also known as silent killer, right? And so I'm walking around just going day by day, not realizing like my blood pressure is just through the roof. My heart rate is through the roof. My glucose numbers are through the roof, right? And so eventually, when I went to see a primary care provider, that's when she laid everything out to me, and she said, "Wow, we really need to get you managed in terms of your conditions because it's not looking good for you." And even with her management, because I was so far gone in terms of my symptoms or whatnot, she actually, I'm sorry, I had a window pop up. Okay, but she actually had me eventually go to emergency, and that's when I got a full in terms of analysis on what was going on with me. And the doctor told me at that time, once I was admitted, he said, "Listen," he said, "had you not come here now, probably by next week or the week after, you will probably have a different conversation about you. But the thing of it is, you wouldn't be here for that conversation, And I didn't realize, because my blood pressure is, your normal blood pressure range should be like 120/80, in terms of your numbers. My numbers at the time when I was admitted was like, the top number was like over 200, and the bottom number was nearing 200. So I was actually at basically a stroke, candidate at that point. And I just made the decision to go see about myself and save my life as a result.
Well, I'm open to share James, that I lost my mother to a massive stroke when I was 13. And I remember when the ambulance came and they were measuring her blood pressure, it said 280/220.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll never forget that. I see those numbers, quite honestly, vividly. When my mind takes me back, unfortunately, to that moment, I remember seeing that 280/220.
Yes.
And that's something that I never, ever would want to see for anybody, quite honestly.
Right.
I want to ask you something, because in the one of the things that I know that you shared with me, and I want to look at my notes because you talked about something that was really significant. I want to say that it was when you had a conversation with your father.
Yes.
Or you talked about a significant moment when you and your father talked about choices and decisions prior to his death in 2014 from congestive heart failure and diabetic complications.
Yes.
So would you mind sharing that moment with those listening today? Understand we do have a break coming up in about 3 minutes or so. So
Okay.
uh, we'll get to that 3 minutes, then we'll take the break and we'll come back.
Sure. Sure. Um, in essence, in 2014, my father began having severe issues in terms of heart failure as well as diabetic complications, to the point in terms of the diabetes, which speaks to your previous guest was highlighting. He ended up having several amputations. Dealing with his feet, several toes are amputated, and then eventually they amputated one of his feet, I should say. And from that point, things just kind of spiraled down because, as you know, when you're dealing with any type of amputation of that level, you're talking about the healing of the wound. And then if the wound doesn't heal as it is supposed to, you have what's called the gangrene situation. And then once that infection gets into the bloodstream, it usually is downhill from there. And so I watched all of that. And then one of the very last conversations I had with my dad, I walked into his hospital room and he was out of it. And when my mother kind of prompted him that I was there, he woke up. And the only thing he said to me he said, "Son, life is about choices and decisions. And ultimately we have to face the consequences of our choices and decisions, whether they be good or bad. And I've made mine." And those were his last words to me, in the sense that what I took from that, was that he understood everything he was doing to himself that caused him to be where he was at that moment. And that was his decision, right? And however, on the other hand, he saw how I transformed things in my own life, and so that was him reiterating the fact that, well, yeah, we all have choices and decisions. This is the one I've made, and this is the one you have made, and those are my last words with my dad. So that's what actually inspired me to actually become, an advocate as it relates to, heart health. Was watching my dad go down another road that, I went down a different road, but he went down a different road than I did. And that's when I knew, like, my life, like I need to use my life and use my story as a means of sharing with other people that you do have a choice, as it relates to heart disease, So, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for openly sharing that. I really, really appreciate. I know how difficult that can be.
Yeah,
Like
because I miss my dad.
I
I
know
miss it
you
every
do.
day.
I know. I can
Yeah.
see. I can see how much you miss him.
Yes.
But when we can honor our loved ones that we lost by the way we live our lives, that's what we need to do. We're going to take a
Absolutely.
break and we'll be back. Okay.
Okay. No problem.
We're back. I hope you guys are enjoying the conversation. So, James, prior to the break, you so openly and I've seen a vulnerable way, shared your last moments with your father, with those that are
Yes.
living, and I thank you so much for that. I understand how difficult that is, but I also understand. I feel like when you have those kind of experiences, when you are given the opportunity to impact, when you are able to impact other people's lives by
Yes.
sharing your story and sharing your experiences, I almost feel like it's a responsibility. It becomes like a purpose of
Yes.
yours, quite honestly. So I thank you so much for using that experience to motivate other people, which you've done now for quite some time. And
Yes.
I want to talk to you about that because you decided to go beyond not just healing yourself, but also to become a health advocate and
Yes.
ambassador for American Heart Association. So why was it so important for you to share your story with others?
Yes. Well, when my father passed away, that was a very tough situation. And of course, people deal with grievance in different ways. And so I decided, I said, to kind of help me cope with my father no longer being here, I said, why don't I involve myself with something more positive or something positive? And so I decided, I thought about it and I said, well, I've had heart health issues. My father passed because of heart health issues. Why don't I connect, with an organization where I could volunteer or I could share my story and his story? And so I thought, what better organization to connect to than the American Heart Association? And so I reached out to the local chapter here in the Detroit metropolitan area, and I walked in there. I did a short impromptu presentation with the director of communications at the time, and she instantly accepted me in, as a volunteer. And as well, she started having me go to certain events. I was speaking at different health facilities that service heart patients. And then less than a year of doing that, she recommended me to the national office in Dallas. And so I found myself on an airplane one day and going down to New Orleans to attend their scientific sessions. And for your listeners who may not be familiar with scientific sessions, it's basically an event that American Heart Association does every year. They invite cardiologists and scientists from not only the United States, from around the world. And this, of course, it was prior to COVID, right? And
Right.
so, right. So that was my first experience going to an event of that magnitude. And I had a chance to speak to, certain speaking engagements with scientists and cardiologists. And then from that point, they designated me one of their national heart failure ambassadors. It's actually about 7 of us that hold that designation. And then from that experience, once I returned, actually, literally, when I returned home in 2016 from attending my first scientific session, I was invited to participate with the American Heart Association's strategically focused research network, right? And this is a segment of their organization where they actually bring together scientists from around the country, and they have meetings that discuss and review scientific grant proposals that are submitted by various universities and research institutions from around the country. And so, as a non-scientist, as I am, I decided to participate in that, and it was a great experience. And from that was in 2017, and I've been doing those committees ever since then. In fact, I just did one recently dealing with diversity in clinical trials in terms of trying to get several universities are doing studies to find out why African Americans and other people of color have hesitancy in terms of participating in clinical trials. And so I was a part of that review process that decided upon which universities would receive those fundings to conduct that research. And I'm one of the few volunteers in the country that actually have had and has that opportunity to participate on that level with AHA. And so I'm definitely grateful for that.
Now,
Yes.
even though we have only one heart, you argue that people generally don't have the same sense of urgency about heart disease.
Right.
What do you think stops people from making the necessary lifestyle changes to live a healthier life if they need to?
Well, that's a good question because I get that question a lot, especially from the heart patients that I engage with. They always want to know, like, what was it with you that caused you to make that shift, or flip the switch, if you will. And I'm noticing that when you're dealing with people sometimes, particularly with heart disease, um, there's this kind of gap there in terms of them making a shift in terms of changing their situation. And I think because there isn't, in my opinion, of um, uh, advocacy on a national level dealing with heart disease and understanding heart disease, that people think based on their personal experience or encounters with their own family members, that they feel as though there's nothing they can do once diagnosed, right? Because they've seen their family members, demise because of heart disease, or they may have had a heart attack or stroke, and they just figure, well, there's nothing I can do. Now, enter me into the situation. If a person has a conversation with me and I share my story with them, they say, oh, wow, I didn't know that. And when I share with them, like, no, listen, most cases of heart disease are chronic related. I say, when you're dealing with chronic disease is a progression over a period of time. That means there's something you're doing to yourself. There's something you're putting into yourself that is developing this condition. I say, so just as you're doing that, you can do the reverse, right? And when I share my story with them, they are a little baffled. Sometimes they may not believe it, but at the same time, I share with them. I say, listen, I say, you want to, understand most of the conditions, particularly in communities that are experiencing heavy social determinants of health. There are many factors that go into why you do the things you do. And there are a lot of lack of resources that exist that also contribute to some of the things that you're doing to, cause a demise with your health, right? So I share all of that with people, and some people, as you know, when you're dealing with behavioral modifications, some people will listen, some people won't, right? And that comes with the territory. I know there's not a one fix for everything. I said, but understanding and really listening to people keenly in terms of where they're at really makes a difference to really give them the appropriate plan of action, to help curtail their health situation, And so that's something I've been able to do over the past years, and so that's just become my life, as you know. That's become my life. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the opportunities with the American Heart Association. In fact, we're actually finalizing a mobile app that I've been a part of helping to develop that's dealing with helping people, current patients or newly diagnosed patients with heart failure, helping them better manage their condition, once they're discharged from the hospital. So once this mobile app is finalized, and it's in the final stages now, when a patient is discharged from the hospital, they will receive this app or access to this app. And this is going to be dispersed in many hospitals around the country, which I'm very happy about. And this will allow them to manage their blood pressure, manage their medication, and their weight, their heart rate. It'll access their mood in terms of how they're feeling each day. All this information will be transmitted to their primary care physician or their cardiologist, so it could be part of their record, official record, a medical record, And so sometime this year, this mobile app will be made available, and I'm definitely appreciative of the opportunity to contribute to the development of it.
Most definitely. And when it comes out, I would love to hear about your opinion, quite honestly.
Yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
definitely. Now, in the final 3 minutes, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about what are the health decisions that you make each and every day to be healthy, because I think you definitely are, you've motivated people by your story. I love to have you give you the opportunity to tell people what you do each and every day that helps you be as healthy as you are now today.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things I tell people is that you have to face yourself. You have to look in the mirror and look at yourself. And I know that's difficult for a lot of people to do, but especially when you're dealing with our community, in particular, when you're talking about heart disease, I'm talking about high blood pressure. Let's just look at high blood pressure. High blood pressure in our community we tend to develop that earlier than the majority population, right? Chronic heart disease, we tend to develop more so than the majority population. Now, if people think about that, that is very startling to think about that. We are, one or two of the minority population in this country, but yet our numbers with African American women and African American men, African American women lead the nation in heart disease. African American men trail African American women in heart disease, right? And
I just
so,
want to say a brief
yes.
Jen, we have about 50 seconds. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but I guess 50 seconds. I want to say, manage your blood pressure. Buy a blood pressure management system or cuff. Get a glucose monitor. You get an oxy meter to manage your oxygen levels, and get out and exercise. You don't have to become a whatever. You can just do something just simple as walking. You can do as simple as walking, beginning that as your exercise regimen. But the point is, you want to get moving. You want to eat more greens, more vegetables, more fruits. You want your plate to be colorful, right? And then you want to work on your stress. Which of course working out will help you do that. Those are things you want to do.
Thank you so much, James, for
Yes.
taking the time to spend with me, and I will have you back. Okay.
Okay.
All right. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you, James.
Thanks, Angela.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with James Young, representing the American Heart Association. My next guest, Mark Nicholson, is the owner of the Gazette Media Group, a Troy, Michigan-based publishing and event production company. They publish the Michigan Seniors Guide magazine and produce a variety of consumer shows and events in Michigan and across the country, including home improvement shows, bridal shows, senior expos, sneaker shows, and beer and wine festivals. Welcome to Empowered Market. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Angela, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
My honor, truly. Now, it's been a long road to get here, one that has been severely interrupted by the pandemic, and that's been definitely the topic of discussion today, the pandemic and how it's impacted us. But what did it take to get here, to bring this event that you're here to talk about today to the city?
Absolutely. So, we started planning the original Detroit Spring Home and Garden Show back in, 2019, and wanted to bring a home and garden show back to the city of Detroit. I love the city. I'm from Southeast Michigan, born and raised here. Remember when, over 20 years ago, they had the big home and garden show down at what was then Cobo, now Huntington Place. Mm-hmm. And so we started working on it in 2019. The response from all the home improvement companies in Southeast Michigan was just phenomenal. Everybody remembered how great that show was and wanted to be a part of it. We were excited to be able to put it together and bring it back to the city of Detroit. And in doing so, the response from everybody was phenomenal. So fast forward to late February of 2020, as things are starting to percolate in the world of COVID, we start to hear things, like, the coronavirus is going to be affecting things. and we had just finished another home show that we've been producing for a number of years in Macomb, or in the city of Warren at the Macomb Sports and Expo Center.
Mhm.
And we wrap up that one, and we're starting to hear people talk about COVID, and it could be a thing, and it could affect events and attendance. So I went down to at the time it was in TCF Center, to walk through Autorama, talk to some of the people who were down there, and everything. And this was the first weekend of March 2020.
Mhm.
So everything was normal. People were flooding into Autorama, a beautiful event, great attendance. The following Tuesday, I think it was that Sunday, that Sunday, the NBA canceled one of their basketball games due to COVID.
Mhm.
And then I picked up the phone, called down there, and in speaking to the staff, who, by the way, I can only applaud all the folks down at Huntington Place for their professionalism, their diligence, their ability to keep us in the loop from a communication standpoint. They said, listen, if we move forward with this event, it could be shut down by the state or the city at any time. So they said, it's really up to you guys. So we just felt that the way things were moving, we should postpone the event. So originally we thought we would only postpone it till like May or June.
Right.
And then sure enough, as everything started to unwind for COVID, and the situation unfortunately got worse, we ended up just rescheduling the event to March of this year, to March of 2022.
Mhm. Mhm.
And yeah, and it's been great. So the appetite from the participants is still there. Everybody's very enthusiastic. We still have, and she was originally planned to appear in 2020, but Nicole Curtis from HGTV,
Right.
she's the rehab addict, right? And from
Yeah.
Detroit, does a lot of great things here in the city as well. She's going to be appearing this year on Saturday, the 19th, the Saturday of the show, and she'll be there at 2:00, as a matter of fact,
Okay.
doing a presentation related to home improvement.
Okay. Now, what makes this time the right time to do the event?
Well, I think that we've continued in the back half of 2021 as things got back to normal. We
Yeah.
started events. We started doing our bridal shows, our senior expos, across Michigan as well too. And I will tell you, the enthusiasm and the attendance has been fantastic at all our events. We had a record weekend this past weekend for our Macomb Spring Home Show here in Warren. And it was just great. So people want to get out. They want to get started again on their home improvement projects, in this case for the show. So I think it just makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you've had a number of events leading up to this that's made it, that's kind of confirmed, okay, it's okay to do this bigger event and bring this event to the city, because the city's ready, people are ready. And I think we're definitely, one thing I will say the pandemic has definitely created is a mindset of rebuilding, of expanding in many ways, of doing something better and greater. And why not do something better and greater in your home, quite honestly, in your home or outside of your home.
Oh, without a doubt. Absolutely. You are so right. In talking to a lot of the home improvement companies, whether you're looking for a new swimming pool in your backyard, whether you want a hot tub, whether you're looking to redo your kitchen, roof, or what have you, there was a time in the I think, due to the pandemic that, everybody was home and working from home, spending a lot of time in their home. And they figured, like, well, I'm going to, I've always wanted to repaint my home or install new cabinets, or, I want to get these windows replaced or my garage door. And in talking to the home improvement companies, so many of them were so busy that if you did want a project done in your home, you had to wait quite a few months
Right.
to get it done. So now I think, we're at the point where they're still busy, but they've caught up with their work. And now if you are planning a project, want to plan a home improvement project, You can come down to the show. You can connect with, we've got close to 150 different home improvement companies participating, and not just strictly home improvement. We've got interior design companies, lawn and garden companies. So just the full variety. But no matter what project you're looking to have accomplished in your home, you'll be able to get it started at the Detroit Spring Home and Garden Show.
Now, you made me think about something, because you talk about like homeowners, and I understand that this is for homeowners, and I want to ask you, so what are you seeing out there that homeowners are looking for in terms of home renovation and remodeling, and how does this event meet those needs? Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Absolutely.
What can people expect?
Absolutely. Great question. So what they can expect when they come to the show, and I'll start with the most popular home improvement projects still tend to be kitchens and bathrooms.
Okay.
If people buy an existing home, the first things they will typically do is come in and go, I love the home, I love the neighborhood, but I want to put in the kitchen I've always wanted to put in, or I want to put in remove the tub and put a walk-in shower and that type of thing. So those tend to be the most popular items, and they tend to be the bigger ticket items too. But you also find people who will say, well, beautiful home, but I need to replace all my windows, or I need a new roof, and they can do that too. And then from a technology, well, not a technology standpoint, but from a standpoint of the backyard, it's turning your backyard into your dream oasis. So it might be a swimming pool, it might be a hot tub, it could be a fire pit, new patio furniture. So the full variety of, no matter what you're looking to do in your home, you'll be able to, and no matter how big your home is too, you'll find something that's that'll help you turn your home into your dream home for sure.
I have to say, Mark, I have to tell you, every time you say hot tub, I laugh or snickle a little bit, because I don't know if you've ever seen Eddie Murphy Hot Tub.
Oh my God. One of my favorite SNL skits of all time. Right? So good.
And I can't help it, because every time you said hot tub, I just pictured him doing this dance and bending down and getting his gold cape put on, like the infamous James Brown used to do. So I apologize.
No. I'm right there with you. It's amazing.
But one of the things that I did, after I snickered a little bit about the hot tub, I did think about something that you said in terms of the size of your home. And that's the thing. Regardless if you have a small house or a big house, or quite honestly, you want to, if you can, you want to improve your home, especially if it's a home that you've had you have wonderful memories, and like you raised your kids in this home, you've had some special family celebrations, and you don't want to leave your home, but you want to make it better. And I think that if something that the pandemic has definitely done, it's made us value our homes much more, because we found ourselves spending so much time in our homes during the times when we had to stay inside. And I think also what we discovered is that when you're inside of your home, you start to see things also that maybe need to be repaired, or you may look at a wall and go, well, I would really like to change that. I would really like to have another room, added to my home. So what do you think about past home shows, and how this home show will be quite different because of the pandemic?
Sure. So I think one of the things that'll make this show unique too is we've got a nice variety too of local artisans, local design companies, people who make custom handcrafted items for homes, whether it's beautiful serving trays or charcuterie boards, artwork for the home too, all from local artists. So I think that one of the things that'll make this show different from previous to the pandemic is people can actually come to the show, and maybe they're not ready for the new kitchen or the new bathroom, but they can find a beautiful piece of art for their home that was made from a local Detroit artist, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. We actually have a break coming up. And when we get back from the break, I would love you to talk about why you think this is so important for the city at this time. Okay. All right. So we'll take a break and we'll be back in a couple minutes. Welcome back. So, Mark, prior to the break, you were talking about some of the artisans and the different individuals that are going to be providing beautiful pieces that can complement your home, quite honestly. And I think that's so important because, like you said, while you may not be able to put in a new kitchen or change your bathroom, you can get something, a nice, piece of artwork that you can place in your kitchen, or maybe you can put a nice piece of artwork in your bathroom or in your bedroom, even, which I think is really great. But I more so am happy to hear that artists that live in a community are going to be given the opportunity to contribute their artwork.
Yes.
And I think that that's so important, especially in a city as amazing as Detroit. How wonderful that you would have artists and producers of beautiful work contributing to something that is big in the city, quite honestly.
Yeah, it's absolutely going to be incredible. One of the companies that comes to mind, and I would encourage people to go to our website, is they'll be able to connect with a company called Abode Impressions, and it's actually owned by a woman who attended University of Michigan, and she opened her own, started her own design business, and the items that you will be able that they'll have available there at the show. Absolutely beautiful custom bowls, custom trays. I mean, just to give you an example of the types of items that you'll find there for the homes, custom, like, even like in little things like marble coasters or granite coasters, things like that, things that really can make any home or any experience in a home, more personal, in your own, turn your home into your own dream home, I guess.
It's interesting. I had the opportunity to purchase some items from artists, actually at a few local events, and then as I traveled, and I think about how when I bring those items and I place them throughout my home, one of the things that I love about those items is that whenever I look at them, it makes me often think about the person that created it or where I purchased the item. And so, here I'm living in a home that has so many wonderful memories, and then I've inserted objects that allow me to have memories about other people or other places that I travel to. And that's why I think art is so wonderful to add to your home, quite honestly, because quite honestly, you have the rooms, you have your kitchen, you have your bedroom, you have pretty much, I think everybody has whether your house is big or small, you have those standard rooms,
Oh,
quite honestly. And within those rooms, you have the normal accessories that go in those rooms. It is the little pieces, the little things that you put, throughout that really make it feel special, quite honestly.
oh, without a doubt, it's a reflection of your personality, a reflection of your
Mhm.
tastes. You're showing people who you are through your home, through whether it's your, the flowers in your garden, the art on your walls, the trees in your yard. It's all a reflection of who we are and how we want to be perceived, basically.
Mhm. Now,
So.
one of the things I want to say I noted in my notes, and I can't see it right now, but I want to say that I saw, and I think you actually mentioned at the very beginning that in addition to the items that we just talked about, uh, professionals will be there too. So people can ask questions and they can even make arrangements to acquire their services. Is that true?
Absolutely. So we've got a full variety of companies from, flooring for your garage, epoxy flooring for your garage, or custom closets for your, for your bedroom, or storage for your kitchen pantry. We've got companies that will, help you declutter your home. And sometimes you've got a beautiful home, but maybe you've got too much stuff and you want to donate in downsize, I guess. But yeah, we've got companies that will help do that. We've got kitchen design companies, granite companies, marble companies. I'm just looking at the list of interior home folks. But if you've got, if you need help with a new patio, we've got custom or stamped concrete companies. We've got companies that will install paver patios. We've got companies that will handle all your landscaping needs, from maintaining your yard from a fertilizer standpoint, to cutting it, to installing trees, removing trees, and it just runs the gamut. We've got I'm just scrolling through the list here. We've got companies that will actually help you build from the ground up your dream home. You might have a piece of property that you purchased and you've been waiting to build on it. You'll be able to connect with companies at the Detroit Spring Home and Garden Show that will help you design and build your dream home too, from the ground up. So it really does, run the gamut. Flooring companies, sunroom companies. If you want a new sunroom in your backyard, they can help you build that as well. So yeah, it's amazing. I'm really excited about just the variety of home improvement related companies that people will see and be able to connect with when they come to the show. And I think too, one of the benefits that I see from the variety of different shows we do, whether it's a bridal show, whether it's a home show or a senior expo, people come to the show and they're so glad to talk to a professional, if in this case, home improvement, because not only can they ask a question, we know that the internet's great, you can do a lot of research, but you really do get to connect with the person that's going to be doing the work, or the company that's going to be doing the work on your home. And you get to really have, not only do you get to ask that first question, which is typically, you'd look up, oh, well, can I do this or that? But then you get the follow-up questions. And two, I've been, over the years, one of the best experiences I had from a home improvement project personally was when I had my master bathroom redone. And I had like this one idea, and he came in and said, well, what about this? And what if you did this? And I thought, oh my God, thank you so much for suggesting that. I would have never thought of that. So when you do connect with professionals who this is what they do for a living,
Mhm.
you really do benefit from that.
Most definitely. That's something definitely that I recognize recently when I've had some work done at my home and in the garage as well as in the backyard. And I had in mind, one thing. And when I had the opportunity to talk with someone that was their area of expertise, they were really able to help me, one, create create space that I did not know I had, in the basement. I mean, sorry, in the garage, which was great. And then they helped me beautify the back in ways that I never would have thought of. And
Sure.
oh my gosh, I can't believe we're actually at the end of the segment. I want to give you the opportunity. How can people learn about the event?
Absolutely. Angela, thank you so much. They can go to yourhomeshows.com and they can go there and get tickets. Tickets are available online. Tickets are also available at the door on March 19th and 20th. Tickets are only $10. Children under 12 are free, and it's going to be a fantastic event. We hope everybody comes down.
Awesome. You can't beat that, $10. Well, thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate your time.
You are welcome, Angela. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Take care.
All right. I will be back next week. I hope that you enjoyed the show. God bless.